I've watched first-time multifamily investors lose everything because of mistakes they didn't even know they were making. $500,000 in unexpected repairs because they skipped due diligence. Partnerships destroyed because there was no operating agreement. Personal bankruptcy because they didn't understand their loan terms. And the worst part, every single one of these mistakes was completely avoidable. My name is Todd Robinson. I'm a real estate investment and finance attorney with my own personal portfolio of over $85 million of multifamily assets. I've structured billions of dollars in commercial real estate transactions in my legal career, and I've seen every mistake you can possibly make in this business. Now in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 biggest mistakes I see first-time multifamily investors make, and more importantly, I'm going to show you exactly how to avoid them. Guys, these are not small errors. These are deal-killing, wealth-destroying mistakes that can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars or even bankruptcy. But if you watch this video all the way through the end and you take notes, you can avoid every single one of them. So let's get into it. Mistake number 1, not setting up your legal structure correctly. The first mistake, and this is the most common one that I see, is not setting up your legal structure correctly from day one. And here's what happens. First-time investors, they buy property in their personal name, or they use a single LLC for multiple properties, or worse yet, they don't even understand the difference between a holding company and a deal-specific entity. And when something goes wrong, a tenant gets injured, a lender forecloses, a partner sues, they're personally exposed. I'm going to be very clear about this. If you're buying multifamily property in your personal name and someone gets hurt on the property, they can sue you personally. That means they can go after your house, your car, your bank accounts, your retirement savings, everything you own. I've seen it happen. I've had a client come to me after the fact. He's already bought a 30-unit property in his personal name. A tenant slips and falls into the parking lot. Guess what? The tenant sues. Guess who they sued? Him personally. And that's because the property was in his personal name. The lawsuit settled for $250,000. His insurance company covered $100,000 of it. He still had to pay $150,000 out of pocket. That $150K wiped out his profit that he made on the property and then some. And because he didn't set up his legal structure correctly, he got screwed. Here's the right way to do it. You need 2 types of entities. You need a holding company. This is your brand. This is what you present to investors and brokers. This is your credibility vehicle. Think of it that way. It should be an LLC. You use this entity to sign offering documents, pitch investors, and build your reputation in the market. The second is a deal-specific LLC. Each property should be owned in its own LLC. That way, if something goes wrong with one property, it doesn't affect your assets. This is basic asset protection. But I've seen investors skip it all the time because they're trying to save $500 on legal fees or that $2,500 on legal fees. Then they lose everything. Don't make this mistake, guys. Set up your entities correctly from day one. If you don't know how to do this, work with an attorney who specializes in real estate. Or you work with me inside Multifamily Dealmakers, where I will help you structure everything correctly before you even buy your first property. The second mistake is understanding how much capital you actually need. First-time investors look at the deal and they think, okay, purchase price is $5 million. I need to get a loan for 80%. So I need to raise $1 million in equity, right? Easy. Wrong. Here's what you're forgetting, guys. Closing costs, lender fees, attorney's fees, title insurance, third-party reports, appraisals, environmentals, property inspections, security deposits, all of these add up fast. You're looking at 2 to 3% of the purchase price. So on a $5 million deal, that's 100 to 150 grand of closing costs. There's also reserves that lenders usually require. Tax reserves, insurance reserves. That's 6 to 12 months of operating reserves in the bank at closing. That's another $50,000 to $100,000 depending on the property. So there's also, we just talked about this, security deposit replenishment. When you buy a property, you have to replenish security deposits from all the tenants. If there's 50 units and each tenant has $1,000 deposit, guess what? That's $50,000 extra you need at closing. Now, if this is a value add deal, you also need to raise for capital expenditures for renovations. Let's say you're going to renovate 30 units at $6,000 per unit. That's 180 grand. So on a $5 million deal with a $4 million loan, you don't just need $1 million in equity. You need $1 million for your down payment, 125 roughly for closing costs, 75,000 for reserves, 50,000 for security deposits, $180,000 for CapEx, not $1 million. You need $1.43 million. That's 43% more than the first time investor thought they needed. And here's what happens when you underestimate. You raise $1 million, you close the deal, and then 3 months in, you don't have enough money to complete the renovations or cover unexpected costs or expenses. Now you're scrambling to raise more capital mid-deal. That makes your investors nervous, makes your lender concerned, makes you stressed out. I've seen investors have to sell properties at a loss because they ran out of money halfway through the business plan. So how can you avoid this mistake? When you underwrite a deal, build in a 20% buffer. If you think you need $1 million, raise $1.2 million. It's better to have too much capital than not enough. And when you're presenting deals to investors, be transparent about all the costs. Show them the full capital stack. Don't just focus on the down payment. The third mistake is one I have near and dear to my heart, which is partnering with the wrong people, or partnering with the right people, but not having an operating agreement in place. Two classic scenarios for you. Number one, two friends decide to buy a property together. They're both excited, right? They trust each other. They shake hands. They agree. All right, we'll each put in 50%. We'll split the profits 50-50. We'll both manage it. Everything sounds great. We're good to go, right? Until 18 months later, when one partner wants to sell because he's got some life event that happens, the other one doesn't, right? Or one partner isn't pulling their weight. The other partner wants to refinance. The other one disagrees. Or one partner has a personal financial crisis and needs to cash out immediately. Now there's a dispute, and because there's no operating agreement, there's no clear process to resolve it. I've seen these disputes cost $50,000, $100,000, even $200,000 in legal fees. I've seen partnerships end up in lawsuits. I've seen properties sold at a loss just so the partners could get out of the deal. All because they didn't spend 10 grand on an operating agreement upfront. And here's what operating agreements should include: ownership percentages. Who owns what percent of the deal? Capital contributions. How much are people putting in? How are profits being distributed? Who's going to make decisions? How is decision making handled in the operating agreement? What requires unanimous consent versus a majority vote? And what about an exit strategy? What happens if one partner wants to sell and the other one doesn't? Dispute resolution. How are disagreements resolved? Is it through mediation, arbitration? Are there buy-sell provisions? The list can go on and on, folks. This document is your rule book. It protects everyone. And if you're partnering with someone, even your best friend, even your spouse, you need one. So before you buy a property with a partner, hire an attorney, draft an operating agreement, spend 5-10 grand for the cost. It depends on the complexity, obviously, but it'll be the best money you ever spend. And if you're working with me inside Multifamily Dealmakers, I'll provide you with a sample operating agreement template. I'll review your partnership structure in a mentor-mentee context, not an attorney-client context, unless you hire my law firm separately. But I will make sure that it's set up correctly. So this next mistake is also very, very serious. And that is you skipping, I've seen some investors skip due diligence. This is the one mistake that costs people the most money. So it's about skipping due diligence, rushing through it to win the deal. And guys, here's what happens. I'll just break it down for you. An investor finds a property they love. They're excited. They submit an offer. The seller accepts, but the seller says, I have another buyer interested. So if you want this deal, you need to shorten your due diligence from 45 days to 15 days. The investor panics, right? They don't want to lose this deal. So they agree. Or worse, they waive the inspection altogether, right? Just to make their offer more competitive. And they close on the property and discover, great, the roof needs to be replaced. The HVAC system is shot. There's plumbing issues. There's environmental contamination issues. Suddenly the deal that looks great on paper is a financial disaster. I've seen it multiple times. I know personally an investor that bought a 40-unit property. He shortened his due diligence period to win the deal specifically. He did do a quick walkthrough, but he didn't hire a professional inspector. After closing, he discovered that the entire sewer line needed to be replaced. Guess how much? $180,000. And guess what? That expense was not in his budget. It wiped out his first 2 years of cash flow. Here's what proper due diligence looks like, okay? Follow me on this. You need at least 30 to 45 days to do due diligence. During that time, you need to hire a professional property inspector. They'll inspect the roof, the foundation, the HVAC, the plumbing, the electrical, and the structural integrity of the entire deal. They'll give you a detailed report of any issues, and they'll estimate the cost of repairs. The lender usually hires an environmental consultant, but if you really are concerned about that, you can hire your own consultant to do your own phase one to check for contamination and things like that. You're going to need to get a survey, right? Again, best money you ever spend. You'll know exactly what the bird's eye view of your property looks like. They're going to confirm the boundaries, the identity, the encroachments, the easements, right? You also need to make sure you review your rent roll. You want to verify occupancy, rental amounts, leases, make sure they're valid and enforceable. Make sure your vendor contracts are either can be terminated or you agree with their pricing, right? Landscaping, this is stuff like landscaping, trash, pest control, utility bills. You want to verify the seller's expense reports, get bank statements if you can, right? What needs to be fixed? If you find any major issues during due diligence, you've got three options. Number one, you can renegotiate the price, which basically means you ask for a credit or a price reduction. You can walk away. If the issues are too severe, then you got to terminate the contract. Or the third option is you proceed anyway, right? If the issues are minor or you've budgeted to fix them anyway, then you might as well just proceed, right? But here's how you avoid the mistake. One, never waive your inspection contingency. Number two, never shorten your due diligence period unless you're extremely confident in the property. If the seller won't give you adequate time to inspect, walk away. There will be other deals, I promise you. And number three, always hire professionals. Don't try to do the due diligence yourself. It's worth the extra $5,000 to $10,000 to have experts review the property. The fifth mistake is using the wrong financing or not understanding your loan terms at all. This mistake doesn't seem like a big deal until it destroys you. Here are the two biggest issues. Number one, understand the difference between recourse and non-recourse. Most first-time investors don't understand this difference. A recourse loan is if you default, lender can come after you personally. They can sue you, they can garnish your wages, they can seize your personal assets, all of it. Non-recourse loans is if you default, the lender's only recourse is the property itself. They can foreclose, but they can't come after you personally unless you did something which we call a bad boy carve-out, which is usually fraud, gross negligence, some other things, but you have to commit one of those things in order for the non-recourse loan to become recourse. Now, most community banks and bridge loans are full recourse. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac loans, those are typically non-recourse loans, right? I've seen investors sign recourse loans without even realizing it, right? Then the market shifts, the property underperforms. They're now personally on the hook for a $5 million loan. That, friends, is life-altering. The second issue is prepayment penalties. Most commercial loans have what's called a prepayment penalty. That means if you want to sell or refinance before the loan term ends, you have to pay the bank a penalty to get out of the loan, basically. These penalties can be massive, sometimes 5 to 10% of the loan balance. Now, on a $4 million loan, for instance, that's $200,000 to $400,000. I've seen investors want to sell the property after 2 years because they got a great offer, but their loan had a 5-year prepayment penalty. The penalty was so high that it killed the deal. They were stuck holding the property for 3 more years and lost out on all that profit. So how do you avoid that mistake? Before you sign the loan, understand the terms. Is it recourse? Is it non-recourse? What's the interest rate? What's the amortization period? Are there prepayment penalties? If so, how are they structured? What are the bad boy carve-outs if it's not a recourse? If you're not sure, have an attorney review the loan documents before you sign it. This is exactly what I do for my students and clients inside Multifamily Dealmakers. I review their financing options. I make sure they're not signing a loan that could destroy them later. All right, guys, those are the 5 biggest mistakes I've seen first-time multifamily investors make. Not setting up legal structures correctly, underestimating capital requirements, partnering without an operating agreement, skipping due diligence, using the wrong financing. Every single one of these mistakes is expensive, and every single one is avoidable. The good news, though, you don't have to learn these lessons the hard way. If you want the complete step-by-step system for acquiring your first multifamily property, including how to avoid all these mistakes, I created a full free course that walks you through the entire 90-day process. It's called the 90-Day Multifamily Acquisition System. And in it, I cover how to set up your legal structure correctly from day one, how to accurately calculate your capital requirements, how to structure partnerships with proper operating agreements, what to look for during due diligence, how to choose the right financing for your deal. You can watch it by clicking the video on your screen right now. It's completely free. And if after watching the free course, you want my help in implementing the system where I guide you through entity setup, review your deals, introduce you to lenders, and make sure you avoid all these mistakes, you can apply to work with me inside Multifamily Dealmakers. But start with the free course. I want you to watch it. Click the video on the screen, watch it all the way through, and I'll see you there. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe for more multifamily investing content and how to avoid these costly mistakes. I'll see you in the next video.